So, start out with the appropriation ordinance number 1232. Bettis has already started some work?
That would have been some cold mix.
Oh, is that something else?
Some patchwork we did.
Oh, okay. You just got the asphalt from then.
Yeah.
That storm damage, is there any kind of insurance coverage that eventually reimburses that?
We're gonna find out Thursday.
Okay, that involves the power line stuff. We pay up front and then we may be able to be reimbursed.
Yeah, we need to get it fixed, so.
Yeah.
It's like 2 in the morning, and we were saying, should we call IES or should we not call IES? And, we decided to call IES.
I was just curious how that process goes.
Any other questions on appropriation ordinance number 1232?
The tar water farm fertilizer.
When we put it on the dynamos and stuff, the farm supply, those.
No questions? Motion to approve appropriation ordinance number 1232.
I'll move to approve appropriation ordinance number 1232 as presented.
My second.
I have a motion and a second to approve appropriation ordinance number 1232 as presented. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. We'll hit the minutes first of the April 16th regular meeting, and then we'll do the April 13th or April 30th, special meeting. Any questions on the April 16th minutes? That's good, everyone? All right, good. April 16th minutes stand approved, and then the presented, and then the April 30th meeting. Pretty quick. Matt, Nate, you have any questions on those? No. Okay. All right, any items to be added to the agenda?
Ed Whitehead wants to add pickleball, and you can cover that under park improvements K if you want to. And then, not on the agenda, I just wanted, I'll give an update on the pitbull. I want some clarification on your intention of the pitbull thing. Because if you want to repeal it, that's a simple thing to do. If you want it modified, it'd be nice to know if it's one or the other.
Okay. All right. Any other items to be added to the agenda? So we will start off then with item A, Quilts of Valor Foundation.
Do I need to talk?
Come on up.
Okay.
Tell us who you are, where you're
I'm
from.
gonna give you a brochure real quick, so you guys can see what I'm talking about, and you can look this up if you. My name is Pam Flock, I'm from Paxico. A friend of mine who happens to be our Quilts of Valor photographer, his name is Dan Furlog, he came up with a list of names of veterans. Quilts of Valor is a not-for-profit organization. Our group is out of Paxico, Wamego area. I'm in charge of Lyon County, Morris County, Pot County, Biloxi County, and now they've given me Shawnee County. Oddly enough, we gave 100 quilts away last year. So we do a lot. I know the Wichita area made a comment on a group chat and said that because we don't have a state representative, that they are the largest group and they gave away 118. And I let her know that Little Wamego, Kansas gave out 100 themselves. So we do 2 honor flights for Wamego, but Quilts of Valor, quilts are not just given away, they have to be awarded. They have standards for our quilts. We have to use 100% cotton fabric. They have to be quilted in a certain manner, have to be good quality batting and backing. We do have some hand quilters that do hand quilt, but most of them are machine quilted. But Dan has a list of 10 or 15 names. So of course, we would entertain even more names, but they need to be military personnel. They do not have to have been deployed. So anybody who has been in the service can receive or be awarded a quilt. And he thought that venue was more appropriate because of what it is. It's the armory. And if I remember right, Dan knew some of the guy's kids, his children. Does he have 3 children? Does that sound right? Yes, no, the armory guy's name?
George Perry.
Okay.
I know he has descendants, I know he has a lot of grandchildren,
Okay, well, he mentions,
great-grandchildren.
is that what it is? Okay. Well, Dan had mentioned that a couple of them here in town were in the military as well. One just passed recently. I don't know who that is, but somebody, maybe this past year has passed, but there's a couple of other ones. But he has a list of names, and like I said, I'd be willing to take on more names. And we are sitting on enough quilts to be able to do it, so. So we would just like the venue free,
And
so we can give away quilts. They have to be awarded, but we have to wrap them. We have to do it a certain way.
when do you want to do this?
It's, we usually do them on a Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock. It usually takes about 2 hours.
Do you have a particular
We
day?
do. The date was August is it 18th? Is that right? August the 18th?
Is it available?
Yeah, that too.
Does anybody have any questions and you'd like us to waive the fees?
Correct.
Just a consensus?
Absolutely.
Francis? Absolutely.
Thank you.
100%,
I
yes.
appreciate that.
Thank you for the work that you do. We really
You bet.
appreciate it.
You bet, thanks.
All right, item B is fundraiser in the gazebo on May 11th. He's not here,
You know, that's fine.
he's on the road.
Didn't necessarily have to be here, but,
And I can hopefully I can kind of fill in some of the blanks I talked to them.
that'd be great.
So, well, okay, so Joe Rojas every year does a crawfish boil. He's done it at his house for about, I don't know how many years, but quite a few years he's done a crawfish boil. He usually just does it for his own entertainment. I mean, has people come up, a couple bands out there. It's pretty fun if you've ever been. The food is good, and yeah, it's a good time. This year, he was gonna move it to the golf course, and because it's gotten bigger and now it's kind of outgrowing his house. But then we had the storm come through, and Adam and Sarah Hart lost the 59 food wagon. So if you're familiar with it, it's out on Saturdays, a lot of times early in the morning, it's out there in Railroad Park. So their 59 food wagon was totally destroyed, and they had put a lot of money initially into that to get it going. It's actually, the name 59 food wagon is because the trailer was originally built in 1959. So you can probably imagine the work that they had to do to renovate that. So Joe came up with an idea, and he actually called me and asked my opinion on it, that's why I kinda got some of the information here. He wants to do a fundraiser for the Harps on, May 11th, which I believe
Saturday.
is this Saturday. And, he wants to use the gazebo at the park, and I believe he wants
He wants
to
to reserve the gazebo.
reserve the gazebo.
Using the gazebo has no cost unless you want to reserve it.
Reserve it, right.
So he'd like that waived, and he'd also like to have the cereal malt beverage restrictions lifted. They don't intend to sell, they just want people to be able to bring their own.
So I told Joe that I would speak on his behalf, and I think it's a wonderful idea, it's a good way, and it's a nice gesture on his part to raise some money to help them rebuild their, food wagon, so. You need,
I'm in favor of it. I don't know if you need a question on it.
I think, was consensus.
Do you need a motion for the CMB?
So we've handled that two different ways, the city attorney's reviewing that code now. Part of it says we have to adopt a resolution declaring a special event, and we've done that. And then other times you just waived it. I would say if there's a consensus to waive it, hopefully by the next meeting we'll have a.
if we need to at the next meeting, we
No,
can.
no, this will be fine. I mean, this is what we've done previously, I just don't know if it's gonna be proper, but I would say for tonight, consensus please.
Matt,
Yes.
Consensus on good?
friends,
Sounds good.
all right, let's do it. Joe will be happy. Next item is the, fire department generator. Anybody from the fire department?
Well, I could probably speak to this. I asked about this because the day after the first big storm that came through, the power was out. I got a message from Chief, we probably all did, saying, you set up in case you want to come by, we set up this emergency response center. So I asked him if he was down here, and he said, no, I'm in the fire department, which I thought was weird. Then I went to the fire department, and he was in his emergency operations center, and someone came in and said, I'm gonna switch the power over from the generator to shore power, whatever you call it, back to the grid, because it had been restored. And I asked, well, why don't you have a generator over here? So it actually came up as, why don't we have generators here and there? And it just so happened that the mobile generator that runs off of diesel or something was at the fire department, which is why he went over there. But if it hadn't been there, it would not, my understanding is there would not have been generator power available. I just don't think that's a good situation. So I think we should have backup power at both places with an automatic transfer. It's a pretty basic thing, not necessarily cheap, but critical. So the chief had to relocate, I think, from here over to there, because that's where the power was. I would rather we had an automatic transfer capability here and at the fire department, personally. So that's why I asked to look at it. It looks like we have, estimates just for one,
Well, for one, there's two,
right, but I mean, for one location.
Well, so-
26 and a 32.
so, this is what the fire chief would like. As far as this building here, we tried it over years ago to do the generator thing, had a couple local businesses and stuff shut it down.
Why?
Why, no,
We-
why?
I really don't wanna speak on their behalf, but what I'm saying is, we've thought about it recently, since you brought it up again, and initially, what we would like to do is have one of these put in for the utility only. So they can get their doors up and get their trucks out, have lights on to do repairs. As far as the city hall and the police, that's a different story, because the debate all those years ago was, do you have it just so that you can get the power on, or is it gonna carry the air conditioning, heating load, the computers? There was some discussion about that, but I think if we could have something, because they have a portable one that burnt up recently when they was running it, but to have a separate one for utility, and then if you someday want to do one for admin and PD, that would be a different thing because of the load, it would be a lot more costly, more likely, but we've struggled over the years to get those doors open when the power's off. They've got a generator, and then they test it, and it runs until you need it. And then then they get the manuals open the doors and.
But I don't see why we wouldn't wanna have one. The chief of police is an important position in this. He should not have to relocate and work out of a space he's not familiar with to respond to an emergency.
I agree with Matt, I think the police are extremely important in that type of an emergency.
I think it's all important.
Yeah,
That's why we
Okay,
have
so
to-
that could be, we put that on for future, there's a
Yeah.
separate building.
Well, but it's the same, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I mean, what is, I guess,
I'd like to hear Chief.
26 versus
Comments.
32 kilowatts, I don't know what capacity that we need. I know I can run my whole house on 17 kilowatt. So we need to open doors and close doors and run communication equipment. I don't know why we couldn't run this whole building with essential services with 26 kilowatt.
Well, I guess for tonight, this is one that, as far as what the police department would like to have, I guess I'd like to hear from Chief Sid. One of the benefits about the fire hall is it has all those radios and everything's got a command center down there. And it's really easy just to hop down there. Sure, we can look into that.
Yeah, and so it's not a huge cost, but it's not insignificant. Where would we pay for it? The fire department has pretty significant capital improvement.
Yeah, that's where I would believe we would have to come from. If you go for the $29,000 version.
That's a huge difference though for not a huge difference in power
jumping up
output. I
from
don't
26 to
know.
32, and you're more than doubling the price, looks like.
So I don't know what they're basing the load capacity on. But my bottom line is I think we definitely want one. And if someone tells me we have to have that 32 kilowatt, then but
The difference I can see, the very first line item is, one of them is air cooled, the other one's liquid cooled. And that seems to be the difference between 7,200 and 16,000, so it might be best to carry this over for the fire chief to be here to represent it, because I mean, we did discuss it, but I didn't get down to the liquid cooled.
Could we make sure then that the fire chief and the police chief are both here?
Sure.
Because
well, I could suggest that I think it's not really a fire chief question, it's an electrician question. What is the load necessary to run what we wanna run?
Well, so
And what's the difference between?
the size was the same, the 225 amps, right?
No, but the kilowatts are different.
and the one's liquid and one's air.
Yeah, well, that's, I don't know, I really don't know how important that is and if it's worth a significant difference in cost.
Alright. Just have to carry it over and get everybody here.
Thank you.
And make sure there's no more bad weather.
All right, item D, David, storm damage.
So we've been solicited by local contractor worker to hire them to help the city with its insurance claim. I asked him to put something in writing for you to consider, and it's in the packet.
So, reading over this, it looks like, and Dan, if you wanna come up, because I'm probably gonna have a couple questions. Sure. Reading over this, looks like you want, tell us who you are, we know who you are.
Dan Rickamini, part owner of Capay Homes and American Commercial Roofing.
Hi, Dan, how you doing?
Good.
All right, so reading over this, it looks like you want to go along with the insurance adjuster and then also do all the work.
So I would, first of all, the letter is a letter of concern. About 10 years ago, the city went through a scenario somewhat similar to this. I was brought in the 11th hour where there was only a certain amount of time to get the rest of the work done that wasn't completed. And what I found in that process was that a lot of things were overlooked, but it was too late to do anything about it. And at the time, I estimated that the city, potentially settled for $250,000 less based on just the quick findings I had in those short tour of looking at all the properties and damages from a previous storm. So that happened about 2010, 11, or 11, I think. And so I wrote a letter just stating that it's important and was wanting to make sure that it was understood how the process works. Whether I'm the chosen contractor or not is kind of moot. Obviously, I want to put my hat in the ring for that. I believe that what you're looking for, though, and Maurice, not making fun of you, but you said a roofer. It's in my opinion, it's important to understand that we're talking about somebody who's a licensed general contractor, both residentially and commercially. I mean, we're talking about commercial buildings here, and it has the ability to understand the inner workings of how the insurance side works, but also to be able to manage and address all of it. I see some, other great qualified contractors out here, and they obviously, should have an opportunity at the specialty work that they do, right? But in the letter too, it talks about, how insurance stuff works. If you were a homeowner, and let's look at it not as a city for a second, just as a homeowner, you have the choice to choose your contractor based on reputation, competency, compatibility, right? Insurance company doesn't decide who to use, and it's not necessarily going to be the cheapest contractor, right? And so what can sometimes muddy the waters in a municipality like this is that it's not the way you're used to doing things. You're used to going out and getting multiple bids. I'm not saying not to, I'm just saying it's not in your best interest. It's in your best interest to hire somebody who can go document everything and know how to present things to insurance companies. Francis, you asked earlier something about how do you negotiate? Well, on behalf of the city, well, technically, I can't negotiate the claim, but I can negotiate the scope of work, which dictates the claim. If that makes sense. Any other questions?
Okay, so if you, are you saying you wanna go, when the insurance adjusters are out here, you go along with them, you look at what they're looking at, and they say, oh, that just needs a new wall, one new wall, and you say, no, it needs 4 new walls. But if we then open it up for bid, do you see where that puts you at a very unfair advantage to anybody else? Because you're gonna already have gone through with the adjusters, looked at all the damage, know what they're offering, and then you would have an advantage over any other contractor if we were to decide to go through the bid process.
Right.
Now, if you and any other contractor, and I don't know how we go about this, but went around, were given access to look at the damage, and then, separate from the insurance company, tell us what you think is wrong and how much you think it would cost.
Mm-hmm.
But do you see where if you go with the insurance company, you would have an extreme advantage over anybody else?
I can tell you, I can see your point there. I can tell you why it's been important in my line of business, having done this, is that it shortens the time frame. Having an adjuster come out and underdo everything and then have to have them come back out because it's so far different. One of the advantages of being there present with them is that you walk away with a very similar scope of work, typically. I mean, they're still gonna go, I could give a couple examples of, literally 2 homes in town that have $250,000 plus worth of damage that insurance is trying to sell for under $10,000 on. in my opinion, it's not something to mess around with, and that's the point I want to get across. I think it's important to pick somebody that has the experience and the ability to get it all done. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, if you're buying insurance and you know what the deductible is, and that's all you should be responsible for, and I think that, you know, the citizens of St. Mary's and as a community, that we should want it to be back. We should want to be able to get the best we can get. If that makes sense.
Any other questions for Dan?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did. So it's just real simple. Are you proposing just being allowed to go with the city staff and be a part of the process? Or are you proposing something more of a hired contractor to work with the city through the process?
Well, obviously, if, you know, just to, you know, kind of put it out there and make it clear, I mean, we just, in the last 60 days, have signed 250 clients, you know, in Northeast Kansas. I don't have a huge interest in going and doing this if I'm not getting paid to do it. I mean, you know, obviously, I want to help, and I will help in some way, whatever way, shape, or form you all see fit. But yes, I do think that I'm one of a few qualified people in the area to do this for sure.
So
So my fee would not, well, we could do it a couple different ways, but the proposed in what I'm saying here is, if you so choose, I wouldn't charge you to go to all those meetings, but I would document everything, and I end up getting paid by managing all the subcontractors and all the projects that would go through that. That's how I would get paid. You know, we could talk about a way, in my opinion, again, not the best for St. Mary's, because at the end of the day, you would hire me, potentially a structured fee to write scopes of work and to document damage, and then do with that whatever you will. But I mean, that's another option, I guess. I don't think it's in everybody's best interest, but.
So for this, okay, if I'm understanding you correctly, and I get it, and I certainly see the value of having somebody who does this every day, help the city through the process.
Right.
So certainly see the value there, but do you have a bid for services that you want approved or looked at, or?
Well, again, so are you asking if, you know, if we kind of call one option A or one option B, is that what you're saying? So option A would be, I'm going to go provide this service for free, you know, subject to the approval of that, then you're allowing my company to do all the work for the proceeds of the claim. Does that make sense?
You said that was option A?
That's option A.
What's option B?
Option B is you can hire me as a consultant to go document all the damages and to write correct scopes of work, you know, that we can, as a city, to hold the insurance company accountable to the right scopes of
See,
work.
that would be a cost outside the scope of the claim.
Right.
But it
So-
could be a savings.
No, it would
If we
raise,
increase what the insurance company,
It's not gonna be,
Right.
it's gonna be.
it's gonna be the same, it's gonna be the same either way, it's just, that's gonna cost you money that the other one doesn't cost you. And, I mean, off the top of my head, I would say, based on everything that I know about everything I know here, I mean, I think 25,000 would be a very low fee, and I would seriously have to consider if that made sense or not. I mean, you know what I mean?
This is an interesting
So,
scenario, because what he's saying is absolutely true. At least from the homeowner perspective, the insurance companies are in business to make money, and they are gonna lowball generally bids, and if you don't know what you're looking at, which I don't, then they're gonna win that game. But I don't know, we don't have this capacity in-house.
No, not to
Yeah,
to go do what the level he could do with that.
right. So it's a two-part thing. There's the assessment to try to get the insurance company to do the right thing. And then there's the work that follows, to do the work that the insurance company approves. And I think that we should have something to do that. I don't know what the right mechanism is to do it.
And I can't help it if I'm uniquely qualified to do both.
You could have, but you can't anymore.
There may be other people qualified to do both.
Understood. I did.
Well, if anybody else, go ahead, I'll reserve for a minute.
I would just say one more thing real quick, if that's okay.
That's fine.
You know, so when it was just a hailstorm on March 13th, you know, there would have been no rush. And, you know, the fact is, I even called at the city and said, hey, I called Maurice and said, hey, we really should go document everything we've seen after this March 13th and put together a presentation and talk it through and not file a claim, right? But then the April storm came around pretty fast and made it much more necessary. And fast forward, tomorrow's the adjuster meeting. You know, and that's really what's exacerbated this and made this be a, you know, we need to make a decision quick. You know, to your point, Gerard, you know, wouldn't necessarily have to go tomorrow. We don't have to rush it, but if you want to send multiple contractors to go parade around the city and look at every single building and document their own damages and everybody present something on their own, I mean, that's absolutely fair, and I know I win that every day.
Could I ask Maurice a question?
Oh, go ahead.
What would we normally do if there's damage? Someone's gonna come assess it and tell us what would we normally do just to get through this storm?
Well, they asked us to review it. Whatever, then,
So the adjuster will come, go around the city,
Yeah.
look at, define, or look at buildings that, or whatever that might be.
we'll have damage and we're aware of
And then they'll say, this is what the damage is, and we will say, okay, I guess I'll take your word for it.
That's what happened in 2010. The issue we ran into there was when we went for bids, we couldn't get competing bids at any time. We had a company come out and give us bids, and then we couldn't get the second one. By the time we had anybody interested to come and look, the first one had expired, and this went on for 18 months. But when it was all said and done, we did end up with more money than we spent on the roofs. Now, that could have been because certain things weren't fixed, that they gave us compensation for, but, so it's been an issue. I'm not saying which way to go, is that having a project manager, so to speak, whoever that may be, that is knowledgeable on something like this.
So it sounds like what we need to bid is not the work as assessed by the adjuster, but the whole process of coming and going with the adjusters to hold them accountable and then doing the work. I mean, it sounds like we have to back that timeline up if we don't have the expertise in-house. Is that like?
Bob, are you an expert on the rough business?
I'm afraid not.
We don't
Well,
have
that would be, if we had someone on staff who could go there with the adjuster and say, no, that's definitely.
Well, I think you're right, Matt, but my point is we let any one person, entity, business go with the adjusters, and then we say, oh, we're gonna put it out to bid for the actual work.
Frankly, it has to go back.
Well, and that's why, one of the points I was trying to make is, I mean, and I don't know this, I don't understand the legalities of the city workings or whatever. If I'm correct, I believe that, you know, typically you would go to multiple bid to make sure that you're getting a fair and equitable deal for the city, but also that you're not showing favoritism to an individual. Is that correct, or is there more to it than that? And if that's correct, the difference with an insurance claim is if any company, ABC company comes in at, let's just use a number, $1 million, and XYZ company comes in at $800,000. Either way, the city gets the same. You know, the the claim is gonna be paid out based on whichever settlement, and minus the deductible, and so the net to the city is the same. And since that is the case, it is extremely important that you engage the right contractor for this project. And that is unique. You know, you're not just adding
How are they the same? You said
well,
one's $1 million, one's 800,000,
well,
minus
what's
25,000, how's that the same?
it's the same, well, you're right, it's not exactly the same, but I'm talking about the same net dollar to the, you know, the out of pocket to the city. It's $25,000 out of pocket either way.
Right, so, but.
Now, in an $800,000 or $1 million, you might get lesser materials, you might have things that got missed. Don't know.
Might not all be fixed. We're gonna pay the
Right.
deductible no matter what.
Right, but it might
It's
not all
not
be
gonna
fixed.
get fixed.
Even if it is all fixed, there could be that much of a discrepancy. But the insurance company's gonna pay who you choose.
Sorry, I have a question, Dan. So you mentioned speeding up the process. I can see how that would apply. At the same time, because you'd be both the advisor, the project manager, and potentially the guy doing the work, where does it end where the city gets what they need? I'm not suggesting you do this, but there's like, at what point is the city good, but you are incentivized by the job that you do to go, you would prefer that $1 million, I'm sure, over the 800,000, if I can understand how it works. So where does the city gets what they need? And, you know, is there a scenario, in my mind, there's a scenario where the process could actually be dragged out longer because you're maybe
Yeah,
fighting for
okay.
a higher.
No, I appreciate that. So, if I understand you correctly, you know, you have a concern maybe that a contractor could potentially draw it out because they're not integrated with the insurance company. So the way I do things is I photo document everything. I would review that with you guys, and we would talk about, hey, this is why I think this is storm damage. You know, you've been around a bunch of the buildings, you're gonna tell me, hey, no, so-and-so did that with whatever last year. You know, my job is to go document everything that appears to be damaged. And then I would collaborate with you all on what is it that you want to pursue. So we will be in agreement. And as far as the pricing goes, it's not, you know, it's not an issue. I use the same software as the insurance company does to estimate. So if we literally put in the same scope of work, we would come out penny for penny on the cost. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Other questions?
Yes. Hey, Mr. Mayor. So I think I'm understanding kind of what the proposal is. If we step back and take a look at most cases, normal process, when we're taking a look at a project or a long series of projects, we can put out an RFQ or an RFP.
Right.
And an RFQ might be something that's a little bit more technical, we're not exactly sure what the final project's gonna be, so we, you know, we've done this with different projects, get the engineers to help us, and we put out an RFQ, try to work through different engineering companies to find the right engineering company that we believe will help us with that unique project to get to the proper end. And then obviously an RFP is putting out for bid for specific projects to be done.
Right.
And if I look at this case scenario, if we had more time, it would be a good opportunity to put out an RFQ that would identify, hey, we're looking for a contractor to help the city or the insurance company make sure that the insurance company treats the city correctly as far as all the claim and all the potential damage. And then that would be part of the RFQ. Is that just to help the city, or does that include getting the bid as well for all the projects? Even with an RFQ for engineering companies, we're not generally obliged to use that engineering company for the projects as well. And it's kind of just keeps the city, allows the city to maintain the flexibility to, do its things best. So in this situation, if we don't have somebody work with the insurance company, then we'll just be in a position to put out, requests for proposals once the insurance company kind of identifies the damage, if I'm understanding it correctly. But I don't know if we have the time right now to put out an RFQ, because to go singularly with you for contract, that would lock you into working with the insurance company and also getting a bid. Sort of my position on the commission is something I'm not allowed to do. And we've never done it before, I've never done it before. And so we would have to kind of put out, if we went down this path, put out an RFQ, offer it to any area contractor to submit their qualifications. And then if we decide to go down that route, we could go down that route. But that's the processes I've been involved in the past, and it seems to be the process that this looks like would be needed as well, so, yeah.
And to that end, I mean, if you went down that route, which you're welcome to, and we do have time, but I assume there's 2 years, Maurice, do you know for sure to get the work done, or? It should be for something this large. A lot of policies are only a year, but I would just double check that, but, to that point, then I think you're more of, okay, let the adjuster do their thing, they're probably coming back, and then, submit an RFQ and see how many qualified contractors might show up, and then give each one an opportunity to go assess all the damages and turn in reports, and best one wins, or, and I'm asking because I wanna know, how do I earn the business right away? And, at the end of the day, again, I don't feel like the starting point in working in a claim situation isn't, who's the best bid. It's getting the scopes of work right, it's getting, it's putting together the proper arguments to get, things turned over if they need to be, if they're not being fairly assessed. Does that make sense? Okay. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Well, but this is, I don't have any questions, but this is tricky, because I think in this case, the RFQ and the RFP have to be connected in order for it to be up. Well, because you're gonna have to pay someone for the service of double checking the adjuster. And if that's not the contractor, it seems to be an additional fee that's not gonna be under the umbrella of the claim.
I would think that if from what I understood from Francis, is that you would put it out, find interested parties, and then, maybe choose 3 of them to individually go do their own assessments. And for that, I don't believe any of them would charge you, they would hope to earn the business.
After the fact, after the adjusters go out and take a look at everything and not have somebody go along with them. And Dan, if you're the most qualified, in my opinion, if you're the most qualified to do the job, and, and we do the RFQ and the RFP, or they go simultaneously, whatever, that's great, but I still get stuck on the whole, if you wanna go out with the adjuster when they come, then in my opinion, that puts you out of the run for doing the job, because you have such an advantage over any other company. You already know, you know what the adjusters are thinking, so I think you would have a big advantage over any other company. And I wouldn't be comfortable with that.
Okay. I'm having a hard time seeing it that way. And because I think the advantage to being there is to the advantage of the city and the community, not to me.
Ultimately, though, it would be to you if you were the only one then any other company or any other individual that wanted the business, would have to go assess the damage. They wouldn't know what the unless we gave them access to what the adjuster said, but they wouldn't have that one-on-one time with the adjuster. I just think that's an unfair advantage for any one individual or one business.
I would agree in that view, but I don't believe still don't believe that that's the best thing for the city and the community, but that's okay.
Well, like what I'm doing with my home, that's my decision, but what we're doing with the city, you know, even if it's $25,000 deductible, that's the taxpayers that we can't, so I think, I have to think of what is the best for the entire city.
If I was there and it made $100,000 difference or a $200,000 difference because I was there for the city, is that not a benefit to the city?
Yes, but just the look of that, to me, speaks volumes. I don't want, down a path that I don't wanna go. I don't wanna see that, to me, that's kinda almost like good old boy. When I first ran for the commission many years ago, one of the reasons I ran was because you had one guy doing all the HVAC work. One guy, and he just so happened to be on the city commission. Okay, so,
Sure.
I didn't like that, I didn't like the way that looked, and that's how I kind of was, and I'm not saying you'll do anything dishonest or anything, you know, but I'm just saying the look of it is something that I wouldn't wanna see. So, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So going back a little bit, if we, looking at this as kind of potentially a split up approach, I guess the first assumption is there is value. Okay, first question, how much is all of the damages roughly? Is it gonna be 100,000 or is it gonna be 2 million? Where, if you could just range it, is it about $1 million potentially?
I think it's probably in excess of 2 million.
Okay, so we're looking at a very large sum potentially as far as the insurance claim, and let's say the range of, you know, opinion of the insurance company, they might say it's 2 million, they might come back and say, it's only about 500,000. You know, they may look at it a different way, which is fine. And so there's potentially a good value to have somebody who's a professional in the industry to go along with the insurance company to make sure that the city's being represented well in such a large claim. I think that's reasonable.
Right.
We've kind of done this in the past with different engineering projects, but then when it actually came to the work, we did put that out to bid. And one of the engineering companies, you know, they had to end up bringing in a lower bid in order to get it, even though, so we split up the RFQ and the RFP process. So when we look at the added cost of splitting this into an RFQ and an RFP, because of even if it costs $25,000 or $50,000, looking at the overall potential claim, there might be a value there to hire somebody on the front end to go along with the insurance company, make sure we're getting treated properly, and, you know, ultimately that's a payout, but then leave that RFQ process as an isolated part of the process. And then, when it comes to bid, open that up to area contractors.
Got it.
So it'd be two completely different steps, and I think there is value potentially looking at it that way. But as far as an RFQ linked to doing all the work,
Let me
Yeah, that would be a little
share why
bit-
that's problematic specifically when it comes to an insurance claim. The reason that's problematic is because if I understood what you said correctly, there's an assumption that, okay, the RFQ gets us what we need, let's say it's $2 million. Now, we're gonna take this $2 million, and we're gonna put out scopes of work and do an RFP, right? And if the work comes in at 1.8 million, well, we made $200,000, correct? Is that what I'm understanding?
yes, if the RFQ is separated from the RFP, and that would be potentially one way that the process would work out.
Okay, that's how most people understand it. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. So it's fraudulent to profit as a policy owner from an insurance claim. And the way the language is in the policy is you have replacement value insurance, they will pay the 2 million if that's what you spend, but if you really only spent 1.8, they're paying you 1.8. And that's what I meant earlier, Gerard, when I said if one comes in at $1 million, one comes in at 800,000, it's no difference to the city. Does that make sense?
For clarification, thank you, Mr. Ray. So for clarification, I wasn't looking at it as far as a profit for the city, but it's more of if the insurance adjuster comes back and says, hey, there's $500,000 worth of damage, whereas if we were able to run an RFQ, have the professional in the industry go to the insurance company, and the insurance company comes back and says, yeah, they're right, there's $2 million worth of damage, then the benefit to the city is we're going to have a better project at the end of it all to take care of our city property more properly as a result of hiring that contractor to hold the insurance company speak to.
I understand the first half, I don't understand the second half. I'm asking for points of clarity.
Yeah, so as far as profiting, no, that's not necessarily it, but we would have a better scope of work, more than likely, if we hired somebody to make sure the insurance company's gonna take good care of us.
Correct.
So that would be the advantage of the city, and why it would potentially be a good thing to hire somebody, is we would just get a better scope of work and a better claim.
Right, I understand the first half being better, where does the RFQ put the city in a better situation? Or the RFP, sorry.
Here's Mary, so the RFQ would put the city in a better situation, because rather than getting a $500,000 estimate claim or of damages from the insurance company, and only getting a potential $500,000 worth to repair our buildings, let's say the actual damage to the building is $1.5 million.
Right.
And if we hired somebody to work with the insurance company, and the insurance company was kind of forced to recognize some additional damage, then the insurance company may likely come back and say, yeah, there's $1.5 million worth of damage. So the benefit to the city of doing the RFQ and having somebody represent the city would be, rather than getting $500,000 in repairs, we would get a more legitimate $1.5 million in repairs, so our buildings would be maintained better.
Okay, you've answered that one 3 times for me, so I appreciate it. I'm clear on why that one's better. I'm not clear on the second half of that, which is, since we separated it, now we're gonna do an RFP on the project. How does that benefit the city? How does that benefit the city? Because I wanna make sure you understood me. If the insurance company says, oh, we agree with Mr. RFQ contractor, it's 2 million, and now you go to RFP and you come up with 1.8 million, the insurance company's gonna pay 1.8, not 2. Does that make sense? Because they release the money, a portion of the money based on it.
You're saying go with the lower bid, only people we're helping is the insurance company.
Okay. That was the long way to get there, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure it was clear.
I would say, good point, understand that better now. Yeah, I think I can understand where you're coming from, and then I have to go back to just a normal process of before proceeding down a path like this, because of the potential value, it's normal to put out an RFQ and allow it to be a public bid process, even for that.
I think the advantage to the city is that it's the same reason that you may or may not have heard me discuss the golf course thing. It's the same reason that I think we should ask more than one company how they might refurbish the golf course. I just think it's fair to give people the opportunity. That's where we're not a homeowner, that's why it's a little bit different.
And I totally agree with that.
So I believe that what you're saying needs to happen.
would a fair, I mean, I don't wanna use the word compromise, I don't think it's compromise, but I just can't think of a better word right now. Would it be fair then to say that the next step would be, hey, we're gonna put out an RFQ. We're gonna select 3 contractors that we feel as a city are qualified to go document their own, put together their own reports on every project. And ultimately, I don't submit them, sit down one-on-one with them, whatever, and have the ability to compare notes. And see which one is going to best represent the city. And then at that point, you can select a contractor without knowing what the cost is gonna be, because no one's gonna know the cost at that point.
So this was my point earlier, where this is a fairly unique scenario, because everything operates under the insurance company, where you kind of have to do those 2 things at the same time, I think, up front. You have to choose the person who's capable, not just of both determining the proper scope of work and holding the insurance company accountable, and then doing the work in exact accordance with what has been determined through that joint effort. And I don't think there's a concern about the contractor, as long as the bid process happens ahead of time, going with the adjuster. All that does is save time, because if he doesn't go with the adjuster, I'll tell you what's gonna happen. He's gonna go on his own, he's gonna look at the adjuster's thing, he's gonna say, no, that's not right, and then the adjuster's gonna come back, and then they're gonna argue with each other. That's just the way it
When
goes.
does the adjuster get here?
Thursday,
But that could be later.
that could be rescheduled.
And I mean, the
I would-
tendency these days is they come back more than
You
once.
know, that actually would be, I don't know why I didn't think of that, but I would cancel them. I mean, you know, so right now, as long as you guys are following your duties of the loss, which is making sure that nothing's being more damaged because it's left open. I think that you should put out an RFQ and wait for the adjuster, have the adjuster wait till you select a
But
contract.
for the entire process, I think that's what it sounds like.
I think that would be a very wise decision.
So Matt, you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but so what you're suggesting is whoever wins the RFQ wins the RFP.
Well, the qualification is, yes, because the qualification in this case is both to assess properly the damage, to determine the real scope of work, and do it. I think that's the qualification in this case.
I don't disagree with you. I actually think you're right. I think if we put it out for RFQ, we choose that one, they go with the insurance adjuster, they do the walk around, they see everything,
Yeah,
then they do the work as well.
part of the qualification is they have to be able to do the work,
Right.
obviously.
Well, part of the qualification is, even though you can do the work, you may not be able to assess the damage, but you can do the work. Is that, you see what I'm saying? Some guy, yeah, you've gotta be able to do both. You've gotta be able to fill both.
And I don't think there's any requirement, I'm not sure what you applied, I don't think it was. I don't think there's a requirement for us to put an RFQ out for this forever. You do it.
Right.
Storm by storm.
Right, oh, yeah,
The
no,
process we would follow.
Absolutely.
this isn't, we're not gonna pick one contractor and then that's it.
No.
Or one person to,
Yes. Otherwise, you'd pick in 10 years, you would be here.
I would.
Geez, we should have been more forceful then, Dan.
So,
So much more eloquent.
we can delay the adjuster,
We can cancel the meeting, I'm sure, I'll take a call and see what's up.
maybe, and RFQ by the next meeting?
You ultimately can, and the way to do that is to tell them you haven't selected a contractor yet, and it's important that you have a contractor there with them to go through it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Does anybody else have any comments on this? Are other people here? No? Okay, so we're gonna delay them. And then we put out the RFQ.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've been following it, but insurance rates have gone up something like 20 to 30% So the insurance companies didn't have to pay out a lot, they're very hesitant to pay out.
Oh, no, I've got my roof shows, my roof is proof of that. I mean, we're waiting for, we've been playing games with them for the last 3 weeks or since the storm. So. Okay. First, we'll move on to item E, sidewalk, crosswalk at North Second and Allen.
So I have to go sit in the stand.
No, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, so previous commission meeting, we talked about sidewalk between Second Street and Cedar Tree Lane on the south side of Elm. And that's kind of in conjunction to the crosswalk on Second Street, lining that up so people going across Second Street will have a place to walk once they get across the street. At the previous commission meeting, I said I'd come back with a general estimate on the cost. And then also recommend a volunteer sidewalk repair project to kind of do the installation. So there's about 220 linear feet of sidewalk that would need to go in. 4 feet wide, it's 880 square feet, 5 feet wide, 1,100. So cubic yards, 4 feet wide, about 11, 5 feet wide, about 14. I'm guesstimating $150 per cubic yard, so we're looking at about $1,650 or $2,100 for the concrete, depending on how wide of the sidewalk. Couple rolls of mesh, another about $300. Couple handicap pebbled mats for the ramps, and quick search, roughly about $200 each. So, kind of looking at about, if we wanted to do this, at 4 foot wide, with those costs included, about $2,400, which is about $2.72 a square foot. And at 5 foot wide, it would be $2,800 at $2.54 a square foot. So if commission,
How much was that?
so 5 feet wide, roughly about 2,800. So if the commission would like to move forward with that, I'm happy to request permission to coordinate with city staff and kind of do the normal on this, which is remove the dirt and kind of get it generally prepped, and then come in and pour the concrete. And my estimate, looking at schedules this time of year, would be sometime in the summer.
And how would it be paid for?
In the
I can
past,
help with that, I'll answer that question, but I have a contractor here that said they'd like to donate for that, but there is a question I wanna ask in regards to putting sidewalks in. You know, I know there's different regulations or what have you, but what determines when a sidewalk goes in and where? You know, because what's gonna stop, you know, someone on, you know, certain families on a certain block, like, I don't have a sidewalk, I'd love to have a sidewalk here. You know, what necessitates the need, and not opposed to sidewalks either, but just what necessitates that, and yeah, that's my question.
so really it's the determination of the city commission that necessitates it. In the past, when we first started taking a serious look at sidewalks, when I was on the commission, around 2014 area, 15 area, we kind of took a look at the city as a whole and tried to understand and think about where is the majority of the foot traffic, and then also where are the sidewalks that are in the most need of repair or the most need of existing. And so we took a look first at Bertrand, because it is kind of the main street in town, a lot of pedestrian traffic. And then when we took a look at Bertrand, we took a look at, well, if we want to start somewhere, where do we start, the north side or the south side? And the commission at the time took a look at the south side first, and we did several projects. There were some like one of the first projects was out in front of the Immaculate Conception Church, because where the sidewalks was being lifted up by one of the trees in the area. And so we did, I don't know, a couple hundred feet, 150 feet in that area. Then we did between Grand Avenue and College Creek, because that was another area that was in pretty bad repair. And then several other sidewalks along the south side of Bertrand. There, I think it was on 4th Street, south of Bertrand. The sidewalk going down to the park. There was no sidewalk on the east or west side of, it may have been, I think it's 4th Street. And so that was something the commission decided, yeah, we should have a sidewalk on at least one side of those streets going down to the park. And then we kind of started looking off of Bertrand to the north and to the south. Where do we not have a sidewalk and the sidewalk will be useful and helpful? Or where is a sidewalk in such bad repair that, you know, it's a real menace? So that was kind of how we approached in the past. So if you take a look at all the projects that have happened over the last 10 years, they've all really been in those high pedestrian traffic areas, especially in the downtown, that was most recent. We did Main Street there in front of the 500 block, and then the south side of the 600 block, and also on 6th Street, going south off of Bertrand, both on the west and the east side. So it's really, we just try to think, where do people walk? What's the condition of the sidewalk? I mean, it's not super complicated. As far as the sidewalk on Elm Street, what generated that was, well, the decision to put a crosswalk across 2nd Street, and looking at the amount of traffic on Elm turning, and if we're gonna put a crosswalk there, it's kind of awkward to not have a place for people to go, just have a crosswalk into turning traffic. So it seemed to be, well, it wouldn't be my first priority as far as the sidewalk in town, but because of the crosswalk, I think it did kind of push that up to a higher priority, especially taking a look at the cost potential of that area. It's pretty minor overall, but if we're gonna put a crosswalk, I think it's only reasonable to put a sidewalk there. So it's not very complicated. You just take a look at the need and the high priority areas and make a decision.
You said you talked to Bill Drew about putting a sidewalk on the entrance? Is there something currently there, or I saw a little gravel patch that led to the.
On the south side, you're talking about?
Yeah, on the south side.
So I did, when I brought it up at the commission here about a sidewalk on Elm Street, and seemed to be some inclination towards approving that, so I said I'd kind of take a look at the area and come back with a proposal. I took a look at the area, talked to a few of the homeowners in that area, they said, you know, the south side would really be the best side. We see people walking, and that's generally where they tend to walk. I originally thought the north side, so discussing it with a few of the people I have, so we'll schedule a meeting with Bob and Bill Drew out there, because part of the reason I was hesitant to go on the south side, because, you know, a lot of people, if they're using that crosswalk, they tend to want to walk on the south side of the entrance to the Immaculata. And it doesn't really make sense to put a sidewalk on the south side of Elm and have them cross over to the north side, only to cross over to the south side. So I asked Bill Drew if the academy would be willing to, or has an intention of putting a sidewalk on the south side of their entrance driveway. Bill Drew said yes, and I presented this to the city commission, explained all of this before a couple times. So Bill Drew said yes, then he would do that project sometime this summer. And so once we saw that, then brought it back to the commission, said, well, it does appear that the south side of Elm would be the most appropriate area, and it would line up with the sidewalk in the Immaculata, a crosswalk, and hopefully potentially a sidewalk all the way down to 6th Street on the south side of Elm.
Dan, if you'd like to come up.
Well, before you,
I think
you can come up, Dan, but I got, I don't think we need, I personally don't think we need that much sidewalk on Elm Street. If we have something right there at the crosswalk, kind of in front of Matt's mother's place, and then just feeds off. I don't see, I've talked to people in that area too, the bigger concern for a lot of those people is cars coming up Elm Street, you know, trying to get across Second Street to get to the church. I'd like to see, you know, take a serious look at, you know, making sure that we can try and restrict that speed limit to 20 miles an hour. But I don't think we need that long of a sidewalk. Now, if we do have somebody, that being said, if there's somebody that wants to donate a bunch of money to pay for the sidewalk, so we're not using tax dollars, then I'd be more than happy to listen to that. But I don't think we need 200 feet, let alone all the way down to Sixth Street. And, because I've talked to some homeowners that they don't want any tax dollars spent, be it any form, be it countywide sales tax, anything, property tax, anything being spent on a sidewalk on Elm Street. So I think, you know, there's some people that do, some people that don't. I'm not in favor of a sidewalk all the way to Sixth, and I'm not in favor of a 200-foot sidewalk. However, what were you saying, Chuck? You had somebody, you knew somebody that might want to pay for it?
Well, I'll also give a little more insight on, you know, because I shared some of the same hesitancy about, you know, we put in sidewalks in people's yards and then it's up to them to maintain it. You know, that was a conundrum that Matthew brought up. But I was talking to Dan about this since he builds in multiple locations, and he kind of gave me a little bit more insight onto what other cities do in regards to this. So I asked him if he would say a few words, and he actually has other things to offer too.
So, yeah, I mean, I think there's some more context to that. I mean, you know, Chuck was talking about some, you know, thing going on at, the post office or something, where maybe you guys have requested that they redo it and they're not, right? You know, so we build in, I don't know, I can't even count how many municipalities, but, we're starting our 1,000th home this month. And most of them require us to put in public water as the builder or the developer. And it's an expectation that the homeowner has to take care of it, just like they take care of the grass easement, right? This is a little bit different situation. You know, I told Chuck, I was like, well, I mean, if the people on the south side of the road want it, well, then it probably should get done. Also, I think if they want it though, to Gerard's point, maybe they should raise money or pay for it too. It's a little bit, I don't know how that part works. I mean, I know you said what happened in the past. This is how we got it approved. I don't really have a problem with that. I would like to see the city, you know, hold homeowners accountable to actually maintaining it though. You know, case in point, and I'm guilty as charged. I own a property on Elm Street that we tore out some sidewalk a year ago to fix some sewer, and I mean, I haven't got a notice asking me to fix it, so I haven't. But anyways, no, I don't know, you know, if anybody has any questions or whatever. I mean, like I said, I think I just helped Chuck come to an understanding that this is pretty normal stuff, and I mean, I don't see a reason to oppose it if somebody wants it. You know, if I lived in a home and, you know, I was being forced to put it across, and you know, maybe I might say, hey, I'm willing to allow you to put it across, you know, but I don't want to pay for it. I mean, I don't think it's that hard. Like, our company would donate $750 as long as you put in a little 4-foot by 4-foot section of the sidewalk for me, where you're doing it. So, thank you.
Come on.
I'm Steve Jackson, live in St. Mary's. I did say at a commission meeting several weeks or months ago, this specific section of Elm Street kind of connects the city in an H, it's the bar of the H, because you have 6th Street, you have 2nd Street, and there's really no way to get from one side to the other side besides Elm Street. So that's what I suggested way back when, they go all the way down, cross up on 6th. But, so, I mean, if you have the map of the city in your mind, like, try back to your point, like where to put sidewalks in, well, where are they important? Well, if you look at foot traffic, look at the city, where are people trying to get to? I think that'll answer the question.
Safety.
How many people is that gonna involve?
Well, I mean, that's why I asked the question way back when, like, why put a sidewalk across Second on Elm? Because if you cross Elm, you go into this little tiny, I counted after the meeting months ago, there's 15 or 16 homes that the crosswalk goes to, so why is the city paying for a crosswalk for 16 homes? Well,
Safety.
they're not, well, so it's more, so in my opinion, it's more than that, I mean, I agree with crosswalk, but, so you're trying to funnel people down to 6th Street, which is 463. So like, for example, if you live on the west side of town, and you wanna get up to Lakeview, how are you gonna get there on foot? Well, you can get to the gravel path somehow, but, you know, you can't really cross that Lynn Street on Calvary, because it's all crooked, it doesn't line up. So, you know, I think that's why Elm Street's kind of become this, I mean, as much as it wants to be this little tiny, little almost cul-de-sac feel, it's really not anymore, just because of how the city's laid out.
Do you think there's a lot of foot traffic from the west side of town to Lakeview?
I think so, and in fact, that was one thing, last year I was gonna come to a city commission meeting and say, hey, can we have a crosswalk on 63 in Elm, because every time I be driving by, every people kind of like peering into my headlights, there's no crosswalk, like, what's on?
Where are they going?
I don't know, probably the church.
Probably, I doubt they're coming to Lakeview. I live in Lakeview. I don't see a lot of foot traffic coming into Lakeview from people from the west. I see a lot of my neighbors that live around in Lakeview, walking around Lakeview, but I don't see a lot of foot traffic coming in from the west side of town.
Sure.
So I think you're right, I think there's maybe increased foot traffic, but I think it's going into the church.
Sure, but so, I mean, then that means the commission decided to put a crosswalk into the church, which is great. But I mean, for 16 people, for 16 homes, I mean, 16 homes to the church.
I didn't want to put in a crosswalk for any particular number of homes or number of people. If one person gets hurt,
No.
then I think we did not do our job. So if that crosswalk can help save one person from getting hurt, then it's worth it.
No, I understand, I'm not trying to contest that crosswalk, I'm 100% favor, I'm just saying, back to Chuck's question of, so when does the question end, we're gonna be here for years and years, and well, I live on the corner of Podunk and Minnesota, on the sidewalk, well, are you gonna get one? Well, no.
Why not?
Well,
Why not? You put one in over here.
Well, no, because our, like, if you look, I mean, I'm an engineer, so I look at things as an engineer. If you look at the city as it's laid out, like, that's the connector for both sides of the city. But it must go all the way down to First Rank or Mission. So that's kind of the connector. So I think it's a very important part. I think it's very important we do have a crosswalk there. But I think it kind of needs to expand. That's why I think it's very important that we have a sidewalk and eventual plans to get all the way down to 63. Because I mean, how do you cross 63? You don't. You on Alma.
I will agree with you that it is a connector, but I don't think it's a connector for the city, I think it's a connector for the church. And those are two different things.
Well, I mean, I think at that point, you'd have to look at the number of residences and how they're laid out, because that ultimately decide kind of where do the people live, where do they wanna go. Like, if I live in Lakeview, which I don't, but if I lived in Lakeview, how do I get down to the flower shop on Bertrand? I guess I walk all the way down. I mean, it just depends, like, how do I get down to City Hall on foot? You know, it kind of just, you know, there's just want to say that there's a bigger picture, I don't know, I think, honestly.
Do you think we have that much foot traffic?
I mean, I think that's something we should encourage in town, right, is foot traffic, right? Foot traffic, bike traffic, but, I mean, do you have a map of the city in front of you, all of you?
No, I know where it is, but
So just kind of,
yeah, I mean, there's one right there.
But yeah, I'm looking at it, so I think, I mean, it's important to kind of look at it. Anyway.
I can pretty much picture wherever you tell me.
That's just to say, like, I think the crosswalks is a good idea, I think the sidewalks are a good idea, and just to kind of have a bigger picture of where we're putting stuff in. Like, I live on the corner of 8th and Lynn, which is in the very extremity of town, so obviously, there's never gonna be a sidewalk there. I'm fighting for there never to be a sidewalk there, but, you know, so. Yeah, I just wanna say, bigger picture of how the city's laid out, number of homes, obviously the church is right there, but, you know, so. Yeah, I think I said enough.
Thank you.
Alright,
Thank you, appreciate it. Any other questions, comments, concerns about the sidewalk? What do you need from us, Maurice? Oh, there's,
I'll comment,
come
yeah.
on up, tell us who you are,
I'm Ben Whitehead for everyone here.
we know.
Great. I live on Elm, I'm on the south side of Elm. It was a surprise to me when I was told that there was gonna be a sidewalk put in on the side of Elm. So I'm not sure that that actually came from the residents on the south side of Elm. Regardless, what we all care about here is safety, right? And with the implementation of the four-way stop on Montgomery, there's going to be more cars shuttled to Elm because no one wants to stop for an extra stop sign. We have a lot of congestion right at 6th and Elm, right? We have cars parked on both sides because there's really poor parking there, the driveway's really small. So we have basically one-way car traffic through there all the time. We have, pulling off what Mr. Jackson said, we have about 16 houses between 63 and 2nd Street. So, and we have half the town on the other side of 63. So what he's saying is it would make sense to have a cohesive plan for the sidewalk all the way from the church where the foot traffic is going, or 2nd Street, which is the other half of town, to the other half of town. So putting in a sidewalk on one block, not really a safe cohesive plan. Putting in a crosswalk crossing 2nd Street and a crosswalk crossing 63 with half the sidewalk doesn't seem like a safe, consistent plan. I think, again, at the end of the day, it's safety. So what is the safest for all of our citizens, no matter where they're walking, or running, or jogging, or riding their bike, or going to school?
Would you wanna pay for that sidewalk? For your portion in front of your house? Because that's the way the resolution is written right now, is that the property owner pays for it. But we've done it multiple different ways of putting in sidewalks in this town. We've had people either put them in themselves or maintain them themselves. We've paid the entire cost, or we've had volunteers, and then we only paid a partial cost. So let me ask you, I didn't get to talk to you, but would you wanna pay for that if we didn't, ask all the taxpayers to pay for it?
I would not like to pay for it because we have demonstrated in the past that we're willing to put in sidewalks elsewhere, not at the homeowner's expense, and probably areas of less need.
Okay? I agree with you, by the way.
I would maintain that we should be consistent, especially if it's safety concerns. If this is purely on a homeowner's choice to put in a sidewalk, have at it. Any other questions? Okay, thanks.
Very good. Come on up.
I want to say something because I drive, Jenna Jones, hi. I want to say something because I drive Elm and down 2nd Street every morning. It is full of traffic. It is full of foot traffic. There's cars everywhere, it's a blind turn, it's a blind hill, it's a curve, there's always people. It's dark, the sun's in your eyes. It's just not really safe, all the foot traffic that's on there. I don't want to pay for a sidewalk. To be honest, I've tried to put in sidewalks before at different properties and different places I was at here in town, and I was gonna have to pay for the whole thing. So, for example, one section, we just took it all out. Like, there's no sidewalk there anymore. We didn't want to maintain it. That was our solution, is take it out. We couldn't afford to put it in. So now there's just no sidewalk. So, I don't know how you want to do it, but I agree it should be fair across the board. If I had to pay for the whole thing, that's my choice. I chose not to. I couldn't afford to. But definitely not a foot traffic on there, but a lot. Needs a sidewalk or something, for sure.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name's Peter Armstrong. I just like to say I'm in favor of the sidewalk all the way from 6th Street to 2nd. I personally know several people that walk to church or walk to the cemetery that live down at 7th and even all the way down at 9th Street. And they go walking all the way to the other side of town. So, I mean, I think like the movie Fields of Dreams said, you know, build it and they shall come, build it and they shall walk on it, and it'll be used. I don't have any doubt about it, even though I'm probably not gonna be using it, because I don't live in that area, but I know a lot of people, like I said, I live on the west side of town, that blocks away that walk down that street. Whether it's to go to school, to go to the church, or to go to the cemetery. So it'll be used and it's needed, and I think it'd be a good, as far as safety, I'd make it safer. As far as the homeowner paying for it, you know, the homeowner already paid for it, and the homeowners pay for it every year through property tax. So, I mean, the homeowners are paying for it. I mean, they, you know, they pay year after year in their property tax.
So then everybody should get, that wants sidewalks should get sidewalks. I should get them up in Lakeview. I already paid
If
for
we
it.
need them up there, I think there's nothing wrong with putting a list together and prioritizing it, and the city go doing it year by year as funds are available. And, you know, like you said, you know, it's been done different ways. Community volunteers also can help to defray the costs. There's nothing wrong with that if people in the neighborhood want to help out. Yeah. A lot of cities have sidewalks. It's not some kind of novelty. So I just want to say I think it's a good idea. Like the other gentleman said, it makes sense if you have a crosswalk there, to have a safe way for people to get to the crosswalk. You know, both ways to access the crosswalk, either way they're going, in either direction. So it makes sense to do the job all the way and not a half job. And, you know, I don't know the finances of the city, but I would hope our city is not that poor and that we don't have to have the neighbors over there do lemonade and cookie sales and bake sales to raise money for this project. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I asked the commission to kind of approve, kind of moving forward with the sidewalk there. And also want to say, you know, it's just something, we make distinctions every day of the commission. Where do we put road projects, where do we do projects with regards to infrastructure, everything. We make distinctions based on priority. And we have to pick and choose, that's our job. But we pick and choose based on some time and effort, looking at the whole situation and trying to make a decision on what's best. And that's what we've done in the past. I think we've done a great job, an excellent job on the sidewalk selections in town, and the work that we've done. It's been a tremendous asset to the city to improve our sidewalks. And I think every single one of those projects was a great decision by the commission. And I think if we move forward with this, it'll be another good decision by the commission, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? What do you need from us, please?
Since this is the volunteer one, I think if you want to make it happen, we just need consensus. There's usually, don't you go get the wire and then you submit those, some volunteer ones. So we don't know the total cost of, you know, the actual cost. So if there's a consensus to move forward on it, it's the city, or we work with staff, that's what the consensus should be. If you don't want to do anything, you take some action.
I have to abstain from this.
Yes, okay. Chuck?
I will say that I was a bit hesitant at first, but after this conversation tonight, with a little more clarity, I am in favor for this, and I'm also in favor of Dan donating $750.
I vote no. I say no because it was not consistent, and we need to get a consistent way of doing things. Yes, there are times when we have to make decisions, I absolutely agree, but if we're gonna do this, there've been a lot of good arguments about why not all the way to 6th Street. So why not? But who pays for it? Do we strap all the citizens of St. Mary's? Some people that live in town will never use that sidewalk for the rest of their lives, but they gotta pay, they gotta help pay for it, so I say no.
I'm in favor of it. I really don't care how it gets done. If it's volunteer, great, and we save the city some money. If we have to pay for it, I think there's a need. So, I just want to see it get done. So, however that has to go.
I assume you're in favor of it, Francis. So we'll go 3-1, yes, go,
And an abstention.
and an abstention. Okay, let's move on to item F, sidewalk, curb and gutter at the post office.
That's my box.
Yeah, well, actually, waiting for bids. If we could table this.
Thanks, Bob.
Received one other one's been really busy in the storm and stuff that rolled through, so, yeah, that's a good issue.
All right, thanks, Bob. Item G, firefighters relief association. Patrick's not here, but this is what we've done in the past, right?
Correct, and I put a copy of what you did last year, and if you can just agree, it's not a whole lot, just to continue it from previous years, I'll put the amount in there. There's no objection of the consensus, and Sugar Hill,
I have no objection.
Tom Brown, back in the day. So last year, I'll just read the minutes here. Martha presented a request for the city to pay for 15% of the firefighters relief association's annual premium for years 22 and 23, which is over $850. So it's about half that normally. Keep it hot in 1 year, I guess. So if there's a consensus you'll approve it at the next meeting when you do the appropriation. So it'll be for $400 or $500.
I think it's a great idea. I support that.
Yes, I support it. Thank you. Francis? All right. Item H, water infrastructure projects.
So in a big sense, this is really a formality. It's just to get the hat in our name in the hat. I know he listed projects on here. I don't think it's a final thing. Last year, we had a work session and the regular meeting, Pat Cox just did it. He said, I put you in for this many million for this and this many million for that. So the deadline, I think, is the 15th or so. I don't think this obligation to the specific projects, it's just something we're counting money. So the water one was the first one. The water one was 2.7 million. And then the next item, which is sewer, I put them separately, 3.5 million. Doesn't mean it's been a penny, it did last year. So.
There's no commitment to this, right?
No, and that's what, it's the same as last year, just a different person sending it out. Because Pat's not feeling well. So
I mean, if
it's
we
to
were-
get your name in the hat. If you don't get the name in the hat, you can't get in line if you have a project that comes up. You did the exact same thing last year.
But if we were to find another way to fund it, we're under even if they
No.
approve this, we're under no
Right.
obligation.
No, I think you can, if I remember correctly, you could even get more if it was available, but it seems like that's less and less likely.
I thought Pat said we were under, I remember, no obligation.
No, absolutely no obligation. There's, you did the same thing last year, you didn't spend any money on any project, so.
And then the item I, same thing.
Same thing, just consensus on both of those.
We have a consensus on both, water and sewer infrastructure? Yes?
Yes.
All right. Palmer Road Bridge,
This came up last year, if you remember, Nathan Bergman was working for the county on the project, it's over on Palmer Road, on the way out to the trailer park. There's a bridge that is on the city-county line, they're, wanting to split the cost. And they put together a cost estimate here. There are two options in there, if you can see, line 6, they did not put the cost for both of them, so they went with the, well, it's $425,000, is what they're saying the project would cost. they applied for a grant last year, and did not get it. The city did not get it, and the county bore the cost of that.
So this is a $850,000 project all in
I think this,
for a bridge?
I think it's half that. I'm not sure this is just our percent, I think it's four.
No, yeah, I get that, but if, so our cost is $425?
No, the way I understand it, the entire cost is $425. But I'm not asking for a decision tonight, they asked me to put a.
But this is roads, right? I mean, this is general fund. How would we pay for it? We've got, I mean,
I've asked the city attorney to contact the gentleman to,
that's pretty significant cost, that's all. It's coming out of the general fund. Some countywide sales tax maybe, so we're doing the C-clip already kind of extended on that.
yeah, I'm asking you just to table it for tonight, so that we can, so I've asked the city attorney to contact the road and bridge guy. And
Yeah, and it just, it's not the attorney,
But to follow up on your color there, Bob, do you believe 425 is the total or the half?
I would like to talk to the county, because I was a little bit unsure of that, because there's two different, options, but there's only one total, so I don't know.
but it also doesn't include, remember that really cheap option, which wasn't even I can't recall it, it wasn't even bridge structure per se.
Oh, like a low water bridge?
Yeah,
Oh,
no, there was another option
it was
that's not, if
Brett.
they're not gonna give us any grant money, I mean,
The state are obligated feds.
I don't know. I wanna see it with the county supervisor again and ask him about the quotes, the estimates.
Alright, so there's not really any point for laboring it, appreciate it. I told my put it in front of y'all, I just didn't,
Alright, park improvements,
So this was on the agenda, but then also, then why they sent something out, and I said, I told you guys we put it under here earlier, is a pickleball court / sidewalk, no, I'm kidding, it's pickleball. There you go.
Group of citizens looking at the possibility of bringing pickleball to our park, and amenity that would be, available for free for a wide range of ages. Our plan is to come up with a cohesive, plan over the next few weeks to present to you guys. And just coming here, just for your initial remarks, not sure if this made it to your packet, but this is where we're currently looking at to add these courts. The idea behind it would be to take out this small little, basically parking road, access road around the tennis courts. Put pickleball right up adjacent to those tennis courts and then refinish the tennis courts to make it all, a little bit more of a long-lasting, and just better looking amenity. It's gonna be around for the next 50 years.
thinking about, additional lighting
Yes, so we would use that,
extended.
yeah, we would use that current light pole to the west of the tennis courts and add 2 lights there facing west.
does it, I haven't played, I know other people that have, but I know on the north and south side of the tennis courts, we have a fence. Do we need to extend that fence at the back end of each side of the pickleball court, or can they, is it not like it, they're not coming in as fast as tennis balls, correct?
No, but it would be a benefit to have,
I don't know, I have never played, but I've heard it's very fun.
it's not as, they're wiffle balls. So they're as fast as soon as you hit them, but after, 20 feet, they're slower than a tennis ball, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you would have a fence around the whole thing, so we'd extend the fence. That would be part of the plans, along with concrete, along with surfacing. We would like to look at resurfacing the tennis courts to make sure it's cohesive as well. And that's been brought up in the past. We would not get rid of the current tennis courts, those are pretty well utilized as they are. Any other thoughts on that location, is really the big piece.
I like the location, but my concern is, and I've always wanted to see this maybe happen is, the fence go all the way around the tennis courts, like a traditional tennis court has fence all the way around. And then I wonder if the tennis courts could possibly then be a hazard to the pickleball people, because some of those tennis balls get flying east and west as well, pretty fast. I didn't know if that would be an interference or,
Yeah.
and then would we need a fence down the middle as well?
So the cool thing about tennis is, since the courts are so long, the ball is going north and south, if you will,
Primarily.
rather than east and west.
You've never
Pickleball
seen me
courts
play tennis.
are more, are more narrow, and so it's a lot more of a lateral game. If you look at those tennis courts right there, they're only like 6 feet apart. And really from the sides to the grass, it's about 3 feet. So there's not a lot of room between the tennis courts, and they've been there for a long time without any issues.
Good point.
Yeah.
I like it.
Lego has a nice setup, you should go check it out. Go play.
So you're gonna come up with some proposals, or?
I'm getting quotes right now from a couple companies just to ballpark it. I'm looking at fencing and lighting. I talked with Dave Perry about lighting, because he was looking at lighting for the baseball fields, see if we can do a similar concept, so. But I figure I'd get this in front of you sooner than later, in case you guys had any thoughts.
Any questions on the pickleball? So park improvements were on the agenda as well. Was that just for the pickleball, or do you have other stuff?
I'm here to speak about pickleball. If you have any other questions, I'll be sitting.
So park improvement, so initially there was a tentative work session scheduled before this meeting.
Right.
But Dave Perry contacted me, said he couldn't make it. So usually we have a work session, we discuss stuff, and then Francis had asked a couple of meetings ago to have it on there, so it's fair game. I just go ahead. Mr. Perry's gonna submit some future dates for another work session that you can choose from, that would work for him, and then you can choose which ones.
Come on.
Stephen Temple, 209 West Bertrand. If we're going to have on here for, or be here for about improvements, I'd like to see a dog park. Is there any way we could discuss having a dog park added to a park?
Can discuss, yeah, I mean, a fenced off area.
You know, just a basic fence, 6
Dogs
to 8
in there on
feet
there.
tall, split in half, small dogs, big dogs. Maybe they'll put some bags in it, relatively out there. Then you go to the park, you got a lot of room out there. I mean, especially over there where that little soccer field is. I don't know how many people actually utilize that soccer field. Kind of where you kind of keep the pound anyways. So I'd like to, since it was open on when I was here,
Maybe
I'd like
present it
to.
to the rec board?
Yeah, throw it in the mix. Cities have them, I've been.
Yeah, I've been to one with my sister and her dog, so
Okay, well, thank you very much.
you're welcome, sir, thank you. All right, reports.
I just want to report that I submitted some information to city attorney in the past on the pitbull thing. I just asked for clarification. I had my memo here. I know we want that section on the bottom, number 4, removed, and gave the interpretation of the dog. But then the other ones listed them. Are you interested in just repealing it, or do you want it modified? Because everyone had a different kind of take on it, and I wasn't exactly sure how to explain it to the city attorney. But I think if you did go tonight and decide if repeal was the answer, if you're ready to make that, that would clarify things. Because then
I think we have different opinions about that. I'm not interested in repealing it until I have more information from a vet, and I haven't gotten that, so it's my fault.
So Mr. Coskins, that's his name.
Koskinen.
He is been in touch, we're trying to get in touch with a animal behavior expert at K-State, to come talk to you. And I said, so but if there is no, because to get something in front of you to review, I have to know what the end result needs to be. If it's not to repeal, that's fine. If it's to modify it,
When you say repeal, you're saying the entire ordinance?
Well, yeah,
Just
but,
take the pit bull out.
Or
when
just
I,
take,
well, the pit bull part of it, whatever, which is a section of its own.
Yep.
The city attorney, when I talked to the person about it, he said, cities are repealing it. And that, you know, maybe unconstitutional, lost with, I gave you that feedback.
well, one thing you can do, hold on. a second.
Yeah, so, that's what, so that was one road to go down and repeal one. The other one, at the last meeting, I mean, Gregory meeting, Dr. Charles may have asked if we could add dogs to that list. So I put that in my statement. But what I'm saying is, I'm not gonna have anything for you to review until I know exactly what it is you want.
I don't wanna repeal the whole ordinance, because I think we need to hold people accountable if their dogs behave in a certain way.
Well, so there is a part of the code called vicious.
That's different, but that's a different ordinance, right?
Different section,
Okay,
2-218 is vicious dogs. So the city attorney had said there was this concept known as one free bite. It was not a legal term, but that's how people interpreted it, is that every dog was allowable until it proved otherwise. They either had to bite a person or another dog or gave it away, and then they had to get rid of it. And I believe that's where our code here, vicious dogs. The pit bull thing, I'm just talking about 2-301, pit bull. And article, or section.
you wanna remove, you're asking if we wanna remove the entire section on pit bulls?
Yeah, because at the meeting last, I understood most people wanted to get rid of number 4, which was any dog which has the appearance and characteristics we dropped all of that. Is that left up to interpretation? And Dr. Charles said something about adding dogs. And I asked him that
Well, my
question.
question,
Okay.
it always, it comes down to, the fact that certain breeds are, well, let's see, bred to do certain things. And that's why they could potentially be an unreasonable risk. So if you put it in context as something else, which is not a dog, you certainly would say you can't have a grizzly bear. Why? Because grizzly bears inherently are dangerous. I just don't know for sure, but I have a hunch that some dogs are inherently more dangerous, which is obviously why these laws exist. So that, and I just need to talk to someone who knows about it more than I do,
Okay,
before
so,
we take that away.
so the only thing I know, so you can get rid of number 4, that's all you want to do. I can make that happen. You need to make.
Sounds like Matt doesn't wanna get even
No,
rid
I
of
don't want
number
to get rid of
4.
number 4, but that's completely arbitrary, it's like, well, that looks like a
Yes.
pit bull.
Yes.
I want it to be objective all the way.
I think I thought we were in agreement, all of us wanted to get rid of number 4.
And is that it?
For now.
For now.
Well, so
You just want to do it all at once.
no, I just don't wanna, I just wanna get it done. And, I could draft an ordinance that would rewrite 2-301, put out the 4, that's not a problem. And if that's what you want, I can do it. So I have all the direction I need.
Come on up, Dennis, you have something to say.
I just wanna say something, I'm not a behavioral analyst or whatever the heck. I have done enough research to know that the breed law, you could probably repeal that and just have a vicious dog law. It's difficult to enforce, first of all. Are you gonna pay for the blood test? Are they gonna pay for the blood test? What kind of dog is it? There are 24 breeds of dog that have characteristics that look like a pit bull, and they're not technically a pit bull, and they would qualify under yours as being legal, but by the looks, they would be illegal. I agree that should be completely repelled, but you should definitely reinforce the vicious dog law. I think if you would reinforce and reiterate, maybe edit the vicious dog law and get rid of the specific breed law, it would be easier to enforce, it'd be more affordable for you guys. I mean, that's been the research and that's why people get rid of it, it's just hard to enforce that. But I don't know about that one bite thing.
That's a concept that is in existence.
It's nervous, but it is difficult to enforce based on breed, and I think it should be based on leash law, repeat offenders, dogs let loose. There's so many stray dogs, but we don't have anything to enforce all the stray dogs that are running around. I just feel like it should be maybe reinforced on the vicious dog law part and reinforce leash laws versus those, breed, it's hard to enforce financially. Yeah, also for cities, that's the main reason they get rid of it, so that's my input.
Thank you. Is that it?
Yeah, that's all I have.
Anybody have anything?
I just wanted to make one comment. I really appreciated the diagram that the chief sent us about traffic, because it's called a crash diagram.
Well, that's
That's all we had, that's the software,
It's
yeah.
supposed to be avoid a crash diagram,
I
traffic rerouting.
know, that was, but yeah, he uses that software that's been around a lot better than back when I used it, but it's still, it's called crash, yeah, everything is crash. All
That's
right,
all I had to say.
nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, move to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn, do we have a second?